I knew something was off the second we walked into the gala. There was a weird buzz in the air, like static before a storm. People looked at me just a little too long before shifting their eyes elsewhere. I figured it was just my imagination, until I saw them. Ariana stood near the bar, flawless as ever in that crimson dress. The one she used to joke made her feel like a Marvel villain. She was laughing at something Victor LaRue said. The laugh was loud, deliberate. The way she tilted her head back, the way her hand gently rested on his chest, it wasn't subtle, not even close. And when Victor placed his hand on the small of her back, she looked directly at me. Not startled, not embarrassed. She held my gaze. My name's Max Nolan. I'm 38. I live in Boulder, Colorado. And tonight, in front of a room full of national sponsors, Olympic hopefuls, and elite media, my wife used me as a prop in her power move. Victor looked smug as hell. I've seen that look 1,000 times on him, just never aimed at me. He leaned in and whispered something to her, then gave my shoulder a nod like we were still on friendly terms. He even held up his whiskey glass in some twisted little salute. I walked over, keeping my voice level. What exactly am I looking at right now? Ariana didn't flinch. She just looked me up and down like I was a minor inconvenience. You're making a scene, she said, taking a slow sip of her drink. I haven't even raised my voice, I replied. But I can. Victor chuckled. Easy, Max. It's a fundraiser, not a battlefield. You think this is funny? He shrugged. I think it's inevitable. That's when I knew. This wasn't an affair. This was a maneuver. A rollout. A goddamn rebranding campaign. And I was being written out of the picture. I stood by you when nobody believed in you, I said, quieter now, because my rage was starting to calcify into something sharper. I made your gear by hand in our garage when the sponsors wouldn't touch you. And now you're standing here pretending like I'm a PR liability? Ariana looked bored. Your energy's exhausting lately. Maybe it's time we both evolved. Victor grinned. She's not wrong. That was it. I stared at her for one long second, letting the silence weigh more than any words. Then I stepped back, nodded once, and turned. As I walked away, I said just loud enough for both of them to hear, your season's over. Hope the ratings were worth it. I didn't look back. Not even once. I drove for hours that night without any idea where I was going. Just point the wheel and go. The city lights faded, the freeway stretched into darkness, and my phone buzzed a few times before I tossed it in the glove box. I didn't want apologies. I didn't want explanations. I wanted silence. Every time I blinked, I saw Victor's hand on Ariana's back. That smirk on his face. Her indifference. Like I was just a box she'd already checked and forgotten about. My chest felt hollow and tight at the same time. I'd never felt rage and heartbreak like this, twisted together so tightly I couldn't tell one from the other. A couple miles past some closed diner off the interstate, I pulled into a 24-hour gym I hadn't been to in years. It looked the same, buzzing lights, faded posters, vending machines stocked with ancient protein bars. I walked in and nodded at the guy behind the counter. He didn't ask for ID. I didn't warm up, didn't wrap my hands. I just marched straight to the heavy bag in the corner and started swinging. One punch, then another, then another. My fists landed sloppy, too high, too low, off-center. I didn't care. I needed to hit something that wouldn't hit back. I remembered the tablet. A week ago, Ariana had left it on the kitchen counter while she showered. I hadn't meant to snoop. I really hadn't. But I saw a notification pop up, just a preview. Don't forget that photo from the villa winking face dot. I tapped it open, then kept going. The messages weren't just flirty. They were clinical. Planned. Victor talking about how to make her image more relatable. Her calling me sweet but soft. Bathroom selfies from our weekend trip in Napa. Captions like should have brought you instead. I felt like I'd swallowed glass. Back at the gym, my knuckles split open. Blood smeared the bag, my shirt, my shorts. I didn't stop. I kept swinging until I couldn't lift my arms anymore. Until my legs gave out and I dropped to the floor in a heap. My breathing sounded like wine through broken windows. Nobody said a word. That was when I knew. I wasn't going to be the guy who crawled home begging. I wasn't going to play the broken husband while Ariana and Victor played power couple of the year. I'd given up my old life once for her. I wasn't making that mistake again. This time, I was coming for everything. Quietly. Carefully. And they weren't going to see it coming. I called in sick the next morning. Told my manager I had food poisoning. He didn't ask questions, just mumbled something about deadlines and hung up. That gave me the full day to do what I needed. I parked 3 blocks from our house and waited. Around 9:30, Ariana came out in leggings and a cropped hoodie, gym bag over her shoulder, sunglasses too big for her face. Anyone else would have thought she was heading to training. I knew better. She didn't go to the training center. She got on the freeway and drove north, not south. I followed from a distance, switching lanes when she did, staying 2 cars behind at all times. It felt like something out of a spy movie, except there were no cool gadgets, just me, my 10-year-old sedan, and the rising anger sitting in my gut. 40 minutes later, she pulled into the lot of a high-end wellness resort tucked into the hills outside Golden. The kind of place that offered things like silent yoga retreats and full-body cryotherapy. I parked across the street and watched her walk inside. 5 minutes later, Victor's black Range Rover pulled in behind her. He didn't even check to see if anyone was watching. For the next hour, I sat there, engine off, trying to keep my hands from shaking. I didn't want speculation. I wanted proof. I needed it to be undeniable. Just before noon, they came back outside together, laughing. She had her arm linked through his like they were on vacation. He tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. She leaned into him. I pulled out my phone and hit record. They got into her car this time, Victor driving. As they pulled out of the lot, he reached across and squeezed her thigh. She kissed his cheek at a red light. None of it was rushed. They were comfortable, familiar. I followed them until they stopped at a smoothie place near Cherry Creek. I parked again and waited. When she finally walked through the door at home 3 hours later, I was already in the kitchen, pretending to scroll through emails. Long strategy session? I asked without looking up. She froze, just for a second. Yeah, she said, walking to the fridge. Victor's got this whole pitch he wants to try out. We went over some messaging stuff. She held up 2 bottles. Bet you one too. Detox blend. It's supposed to help with fatigue. I took it without a word. She kissed me on the cheek and headed upstairs to shower. I stood there with that stupid green bottle in my hand, heart pounding. Not from the betrayal, I already knew that part. From the way she could lie to my face so easily. From the way she smiled like nothing was wrong, like I was just another puzzle piece in her performance. It wasn't just an affair. It was a merger. And I just watched the press tour. That night, I stayed up after Ariana fell asleep. Her breathing was even, relaxed, like someone without a care in the world. Meanwhile, I sat in the living room with her tablet open on my lap, heart thudding like a drumline. I started with the texts again, screen recorded every thread between her and Victor. The pet names, the hotel dates, the photos. But I didn't stop there this time. I went deeper, into her email, her cloud storage, her work folders. That's when the Real story came out. There were receipts. Hotel stays charged to her sponsorships business account. Dinners at rooftop restaurants the night she told me she had late practice. Even a spa package in her name and Victor's, scheduled the same weekend I had flown out to pitch a new line to potential investors. I downloaded everything. Took photos of the receipts, exported her calendar logs. Tracked her GPS history from the fitness app she forgot was still synced with my account. There it was, repeated overnight visits to Victor's condo near the training complex. Every dot on the map might as well have been a knife in the back. Then I found something else. A document in her private notes app titled, Next Season Strategy. I opened it, hands clenched. It wasn't about training or performance. It was a blueprint for shedding her old image, the wife-supported underdog. In her words, Max's whole nice guy, gear designer brand is sweet, but it's dragging me down. He lost his spark after he quit advertising. Doesn't fit the look I'm going for anymore. Further down, if I really want to level up, I need distance. I need someone with presence, with reach, with vision. Victor. I sat there for a long time after that, just staring at the screen. I had given up my career to build something for us. I'd passed on job offers in New York and LA so she could stay close to her training center in Colorado. I used every last favor from my old agency contacts to help get her initial endorsements. I believed in her before anyone else did. And now she was talking about me like I was a pair of old shoes. Worn out. Unstylish. By the time the sun started coming up, I had a full dossier saved on an encrypted drive, photos, videos, expense reports, emails, all timestamped and sorted. I even printed out copies, neatly filed. I took the folder to a lawyer downtown, a woman named Cassandra Bell, recommended by one of my old agency friends. She flipped through the pages slowly, nodding without saying much. Finally, she looked up and said, "This isn't a divorce case. This is a corporate takedown disguised as a marriage." I nodded. "Exactly." Cassandra smiled faintly. "Good. Let's treat it that way." 2 days later, Ariana told me she'd be leaving for a team-building retreat in Breckenridge. Said it was all business, just some bonding time with her nutritionist, PR manager, and a few other names she rattled off like she was reading from a script. I nodded, pretending to believe her. She packed light, just one carry-on and a yoga mat. Kissed me on the cheek like always, then walked out the front door with a breezy, "Wish me luck." I gave it an hour, then followed. I'd installed a GPS tracker on her car the night before, something small and legal. Cassandra had made sure of that. It pinged from the edge of downtown before heading west into the mountains. I stayed far enough behind that she'd never notice. She didn't stop once. About an hour and a half later, she pulled into a boutique lodge tucked away from the main roads. Private, secluded, upscale. I parked down the road, walked a bit, then found a trail that led around back. From a patch of trees near the spa entrance, I watched her step out of the car and into Victor's arms. He didn't waste time. Kissed her forehead, took her bag from her shoulder. She laughed, leaned into him, touched his face like it was second nature. I started filming. I kept the camera steady as they walked hand in hand inside, completely relaxed, like a couple on vacation. No PR manager. No nutritionist. No retreat. Just them. When she got back 2 days later, the lies came smooth and easy. It was more intense than I expected. We did this ice bath challenge, then trust exercises on the last day. She trailed off, trying to gauge my face, probably wondering if I suspected anything. I didn't say much, just handed her a towel as she unpacked. Later that night, after dinner, I asked her to meet me in the kitchen. She came in barefoot, phone in hand, scrolling. "What's up?" I pointed to the island. On it sat a thick folder, my version of a strategy session. "I think we should talk." She flipped the folder open, still chewing the inside of her cheek like it was just another tax form. The first page was a hotel invoice. The second, GPS data. Then screenshots of texts, photos, calendar logs. Finally, a printout of her notes. She didn't say a word for a long time. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. "Wow," she said, flipping through the evidence. "You really went all out." "I had to," I said calmly. "You were building a new future. Just figured I'd keep the receipts." She sighed, like I just handed her the wrong Starbucks order. "If you're so unhappy, maybe you should walk. No one's stopping you." That part stung more than anything else. Not the affair, not the scheming. The sheer indifference. Like I was a leash she couldn't wait to get out of. "You're not even sorry," I said. She met my eyes and didn't blink. "You always needed me more than I needed you." There it was. The real her. The one behind the gold medals and endorsement deals and carefully curated interviews. The one I'd been too blinded to see. I nodded, more to myself than to her. "Then I'll make it easy for you." I left the room and didn't look back. She could keep the kitchen, the house, the lies. I had something better now, leverage. Ariana must have assumed I'd fade out quietly, maybe crash on a friend's couch for a while and lick my wounds like some sad ex-husband with hurt feelings. She didn't realize I'd already lawyered up, digitized the whole betrayal, and built a timeline that would make her sponsors sweat. The first shot came a week later when she tried to contest the prenup. She filed through her legal team, some slick LA guy with a reputation for dragging things out. Claimed I was entitled to less because I'd abandoned the partnership. Claimed she deserved half of my startup apparel business, the same one she once mocked as a hobby for ex-jocks with no plan. But the best part? She also requested full custody of Bruno, my German shepherd. Said he was emotionally closer to her. That was the move that told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about fairness. It was about punishment. Cassandra and I didn't blink. We submitted everything. The full dossier. Photos of Ariana and Victor together during business hours, with timestamps that lined up with expenses billed to her sponsor's account. Receipts showing she charged romantic getaways to corporate cards. An email thread where she joked about pushing Max out before the rebrand. Then the tax inconsistencies. Cassandra flagged a few of Ariana's business write-offs that overlapped with Victor's travel records. It wasn't just bad ethics, it was fraud. Within days, Victor's name disappeared from 3 upcoming media appearances. Then came the statement from the National Committee. Coach Victor Leroux will be suspended pending investigation into alleged misuse of sponsorship funds and personal misconduct. Ariana didn't post for a full week. By the end of the month, she'd lost 2 major endorsements, one apparel, one skincare, and a podcast deal she'd just announced 3 weeks earlier. Quietly scrubbed from her profiles, like they never happened. Meanwhile, my inbox was filling with new brand partnership offers. Small companies at first, indie fitness startups, wellness brands, but the tone had changed. Max Nolan wasn't just the husband of. I was now the one they wanted to align with. I never said a word about the affair publicly. No interviews, no tweets. I let the silence do the work. Let her sponsors wonder what else I might have on record. Let the public fill in the blanks. The only headline that mattered: Olympic star Ariana Blake drops partnerships amid ongoing controversy. As for Bruno, that was the easiest win of all. I submitted vet records showing she hadn't taken him to a single appointment in 2 years. Photos of her traveling while he stayed with me. Even a video from my doorbell cam, Bruno losing his mind with joy when I came home, ignoring her completely when she called his name. The judge didn't even hesitate. Full custody granted. I picked him up the next day. He jumped into the car like he never left. I wasn't trying to destroy her. I just wanted the truth to have weight. And it did. Like a hammer. Ariana finally called me after the ruling. Voice trembling. "You didn't have to go nuclear." "I didn't," I said. "You did. I just made sure it left a mark." Then I hung up. And just like that, the version of me she thought she could erase became the one thing she couldn't stop. She asked to meet somewhere quiet. I told her to name the place. She picked the cafe where we'd met almost 8 years ago. Back then it was just a cozy hole in the wall with mismatched furniture and a chalkboard menu. Now it was trendy, new paint, new lighting, same smell of burnt espresso beans and fresh cinnamon. I got there early, sat in the corner, facing the door, fingers wrapped around a mug of black coffee that had already gone cold. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. Oversized sunglasses, hair pulled back tight, no makeup, or at least not the usual kind. A long beige coat hung off her shoulders like armor. She looked like someone who was trying hard not to be seen. "Max," she said softly, sliding into the seat across from me. I didn't answer right away, just gave a small nod. She took off her glasses. Her eyes were red, tired. Maybe from crying. Maybe just from the collapse. "I miss us," she said, voice cracking just enough for me to know it wasn't rehearsed. I stared at her. Not cold, not angry, just level. "Which version of us? The real one, or the one you fed your sponsors?" She blinked, thrown. "That's not fair." "No, what's not fair," I said, leaning in slightly, "was watching you turn me into a prop. A footnote. A weakness. While you smiled into cameras and made plans with Victor behind my back." Her shoulders slumped. She stared down at her coffee. "I didn't think you'd actually fight back. That much was obvious. I thought you'd just," she trailed off, "disappear. Like you always do when we argue." "I didn't disappear," I said calmly. "I evolved. You were too busy building your brand to notice." We sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, snow was starting to fall. Light flakes, nothing serious. The street looked peaceful. So did the cafe. But inside that booth, there was nothing left to salvage. "I really did love you," she said after a while. "I believe that," I replied. "But love doesn't count if it only shows up when things are easy. You didn't love me when it got inconvenient." She looked up at me, like she wanted to say something, maybe explain, maybe beg. But I'd already made peace with it. "I fought for you," I said. "You performed." Then I stood up. She didn't follow, didn't call my name, didn't try to stop me. I walked out into the cold, hands in my pockets, and kept walking until the cafe disappeared behind me. She could sit in that booth for as long as she wanted. But I wasn't coming back. The first few weeks after I walked out of that cafe were quiet. Too quiet, maybe, but not the kind that haunted me. It was a kind of silence I hadn't felt in years. No sponsors to chase. No PR calls to screen. No fake smiles over breakfast. Just me, Bruno, and a garage full of product prototypes waiting for a second chance. I got to work. Not out of vengeance. Not anymore. That part of me had burned itself out somewhere between the court hearings and that final meeting with Ariana. What I had now was focus. Sharp, ruthless focus. I pulled the plug on the old branding. Rebuilt the site. Cut ties with the 2 influencers Ariana had brought in last year, and hired athletes who weren't household names but had grit, heart. People like I used to be. People who reminded me why I started this in the first place. I boxed every morning. Not out of rage, but discipline. It helped me think. Helped me breathe. My trainer, an old friend from back in the gear testing days, started coming by twice a week. No small talk. Just sweat and movement. It was therapy with punching bags. By month 3, business had doubled. Orders flooded in from small colleges and amateur teams. Coaches messaged me directly, saying things like, "Finally, someone who gets it." My name was starting to mean something again. Not because of who I was married to, but because of what I built. The offers came too. Not just customers, but investors. Brands that used to sponsor Ariana quietly reached out. One of them, a global hydration company, signed on with a message that read simply, "We like the way you handled things. Classy. Let's build something better." The press tried. God, did they try? I ignored every request. No interviews, no exclusive tell-alls. Let them guess. Let them spin it however they wanted. The people who mattered knew the truth. And the ones who didn't? They weren't worth convincing. Victor disappeared from headlines just as fast as Ariana's sponsors did. The scandal had a half-life, and both of them had already been radioactive. I didn't need to say a word. Their silence said everything. Bruno became my shadow, warehouse dog, trail companion, part-time mascot. Clients loved him. He'd greet delivery guys like they were family and nap under my desk while I sketched new gear prototypes. I'd lost the marriage. Lost the illusion of who Ariana used to be. But I got something else in return. A business with roots. A name with weight. A life that was finally mine. And I wasn't looking back. It was 6 months later, at a global sports tech expo in Chicago, when I saw him again. Victor LaRue. He was on the main stage, giving a talk titled Mental Toughness and the Next Generation of Champions. The schedule had him slotted in a side ballroom, not the keynote, not even a panel. Just a standalone speech at 3 in the afternoon, sandwiched between a wearable hydration monitor demo and a vertical jump analytics showcase. I didn't go in. I didn't need to. From the hallway, I saw the doors swing open halfway through his talk as a small crowd trickled out early. Not bored, just unimpressed. A few of them shrugged as they left. One guy even muttered, "Thought he'd be taller." I kept walking. My booth was near the South Concourse, prime real estate. We just launched our new line of modular compression wear. The buzz was real. Clients I'd never dreamed of were stopping by to shake my hand, to ask about partnerships. I had a waitlist forming just for consults. That night, I stood on the rooftop bar of the hotel across the street from the convention center. Same one the sponsors had booked for the after-party. I didn't go down to mingle. Didn't need to be seen. I just watched. From where I stood, I could see the patio crowd lifting glasses, laughing. My product banner hung above the fireplace behind them. My gear on their backs. My name on their lips. And Victor? He wasn't there. He had disappeared into the noise. Just another voice giving tired speeches to half-empty rooms. Whatever power he had built, whatever illusion he thought would carry him, had evaporated the moment he hit resistance. He had bet everything on a rising star. And when that star crashed, he had nothing left to orbit. I sipped my drink and turned away from the glass. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the man left behind. I was the one ahead now. It came exactly 1 year to the day. Same date. Same hour. Almost to the minute. I was sitting on a rocky outcrop in Patagonia, legs sore from a 4-hour ascent, my breath catching in the crisp mountain air. Bruno lay beside me, tongue lolling, his head resting on my boot like he had nowhere else in the world to be. That's when my phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it. Out there, surrounded by sky and silence, the last thing I wanted was a reminder of what I'd left behind. But habit got the better of me. I pulled it out, expecting maybe a shipping notification or a delayed email from a supplier. It was from Ariana. A text. No emojis. No punctuation. "I'm sorry for everything." That was it. After a year of silence. After the lawsuits, the articles, the sponsors that fled like rats from a sinking ship. After the fall from grace, the image rehab attempts, the apology podcast tour. That's what she came up with. I stared at the screen for a long time, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I could have responded. Something short. Something final. But the truth was, I didn't feel much of anything. Not anger. Not grief. Not revenge. Just distance. Ariana had become a part of my story, yes, but she wasn't the center of it anymore. She was a chapter. One filled with betrayal and lessons and cold awakenings. But she didn't own the ending. I locked the phone and slipped it back into my jacket. Bruno lifted his head like he sensed something shifting. I gave his ear a scratch and stood up. All around me was nothing but mountains, clouds, and wind. No headlines. No press tours. No performance. Just sky and peace. I had lost a lot that night at the gala, but I had gained more. A company with integrity. A future built on my own damn terms. A life that didn't need anyone's permission to be full. Ariana's message sat there, unopened again. I never answered it. I just kept walking.